So I'm going to paint this scene here, but I've cropped the image to get into a little corner of Le Chat. This is my local town, and I'm not using any mid-journey images, no tracing, just painting it. And the reference image, I like the composition, but I'm not so keen on the colours, so I'm going to try and inject a bit of warmth and perhaps that golden hour summer feel. So this is, I suppose, a little bit of a test to see whether I can do that using my imagination. So let's give it a go. A little bit of stain on this. This is actually a linen canvas. This is Michael Harding Ochre Deep, Yellow Deep. So I've had this canvas for a few years, saving it for best. Linen is the best to paint on, apparently. The problem is you never know when it's going to be your best painting. For me, I found my best paintings have been on perhaps surfaces that perhaps are designed for just practice, often the way. So I've done lots of demos with using mid-journey images this year. I think it's been a great introduction to, or in addition to my teaching on the website. But it's good to have a go at doing something from a photograph, one of my own photos, not a good photo, and see can I come up with a good painting without using any digital tools. Not that I'm against them, but just to make sure I can still do it, or to see how far I am or what I've achieved so far and where I need to improve. So let's got rid of the white off of there. I've done a lot of demos this year, and I've also started my sketchbook this year. That's new. I think I've probably painted more this year than I have ever done, which is good. It means next year I'm going to paint even more. So, also I've traced a lot this year, which again I'm not against that, but certainly doing some work in my sketchbook has helped me improve my drawing, and I probably went for tracing because the drawing was just too difficult or wasn't accurate enough. So the only way to improve that is to do more drawing. But yeah, you can read about drawing. I've got lots of books on drawing and so on, but you know, they sort of give you information, but it doesn't actually teach you eye-hand coordination and all that sort of stuff. You've just got to do it. And I did a sketch last night in my sketchbook, a copy of an Edward Seago. That's something else I do a lot of, master studies. An Edward Seago painting of Venice, and what I noticed is that I bet he moved things about in the in his compositions to make the scene work. And what I mean by that is perhaps, for instance, if in the actual reference photo there's a dark shape where the wing mirror has been pulled in, which gives us dark against light. Perhaps if that wing mirror was open, it would be light against light. It would be better to change it to dark against dark, because you get more contrast. And you know, I noticed all the boats in this Seago scene were all positioned perfectly to give that nice contrast in the right places, and that probably didn't happen. He had to make it happen. So I should be thinking about that in this reference. And I particularly picked this reference because, I'd say, it's not a great reference from the point of view of the colours, or it's not printed particularly well. But as artists, our job is to make a painting out of nothing. And that's where AI has been quite good, mid-journey, because I can put some reference images in that perhaps aren't quite doing it for me. and put in a painting that I've done. Mix it up, and then I've got a reference that is going to work well for a painting. So let's see if we can make this into a painting. So this is La Chatte, my local town. We do our shopping, etc. Painted the whole scene. This is a cropped image. I've painted the whole scene in watercolor. Another car behind there. 4 cars, but let's just make it 3. Suggestion a bit there. And this archway is nice. That's wrong. That should go there. So the advantage with oil painting, it's very easy to correct mistakes. Just rub it out. I want to have the archway big enough. It's quite a nice part of the painting. Buildings and so on off there, and then another building there. So obviously if you're not necessarily keen on watching the drawing part, you can just skip to the painting part, but I'm finding I'm enjoying the drawing part more and more as my confidence grows with drawing. And of course when you go outdoors and paint, you can't be tracing, so you need to have a few drawing skills available to us. The tree's going to go off there, and there's this shadow that's interesting. It's a good idea to check your composition. Done another scene in France, more sort of south of France, which had a shadow coming across it like that. And it comes across there. And those shadows will work well to lead us into the scene. And then, so this is what I mean with, there you go, you know, he would just put a dark shape in there. There's actually one there, but he just changes the how the painting is viewed. Tree there, that's up a little bit high. It looks okay, so maybe we could bring it down. Probably would look better actually. Make more of that archway. And this drawing stage here, where you can remove stuff, put stuff in easily, it's a great opportunity to experiment, try things out. Tree there, buildings. That makes quite an interesting. So the archway is probably the problem that's actually a little bit high, but could bring it down. So, you know, that's why sometimes if I'm not in the mood for drawing, that's why sometimes I might trace, because it's quicker, more accurate sometimes. But I think also the drawing stage gives you an opportunity to get to know the scene. Cars there should just be suggested off in the distance. And I'll probably end up trying to put a figure in here somewhere. So I think do with let's just see where the light ends up, where I can put a figure. So it's definitely not right, the drawing, that I've had to move that tree in front of that building. So I've just got to decide whether that's okay or not. Let's perhaps bring that around there more. Gives up a bit more room on the road. We can perhaps have a window there. But no one will know that that tree's moved, even the people in the Shatra. Does it work as a painting? That's the main thing. And obviously we have these hanging branches over the light area there. So let's carry on the drawing, but removing some paint to put the areas of light in. And I'm just using a baby wipe there. I actually quite enjoy this stage. I'm going to start to try and design the painting. Welcome to my oil painting channel, and on this channel we keep things nice and simple. So if that's for you, keep watching. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and in the link in the description there's a link to my website where I've got a membership option which you can take your oil painting a little bit further with access to reference photos, huge amounts of library of demonstrations that are easy to follow along, and also we've got the members forum as well, so you can interact with like-minded artists. So let's get on with the video and say hit that like and subscribe, notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Let's get on with it. As well, that works quite nice. That takes us into the scene nicely. So the direction of light is coming in from this way. Wipe off some of that sky in case I decide to paint the sky in today. Alright, let's get some paint on. So, some darks in first. So I'm starting with a limited palette. I'm not sure about what colours. I'm going to go for a warm painting. So, mixed a dark purple there. To get these areas in. So I'm quite happy with my drawing, so I can put in, so it's probably a bit early for details like that, but let's just think about shapes, not putting too much paint on, just getting some darks in just to double check, I suppose, that the drawing is okay. The purple and orange is quite nice together. And there's a dark, which will be against the light. Obviously, they put their wing mirrors in because the cars obviously drive through this narrow street and take the mirrors with them. And by getting some darks in early like this, you then, you get to see the painting, get an idea of what it might actually look like. perspective right. I think that would be better if it's slightly shorter. Let's put in a tree there. Tree there. Continue with the darks, and I think that has certainly helped me with painting, is to look at things as just shapes. And I suppose a lot of time those mid-journey images, a lot of them don't make sense because they're just random shapes, but the painting looks okay and looks good as a painting, but it's just well positioned shapes. And again, looking at Seago Master Study I did the other day, that was the same. You know, they were just shapes that didn't actually mean anything, but they were just well positioned to help explain the painting. So car could just be suggested. When we're talking a long way away like that, that's probably enough. So I'm being fairly careful at the moment, just to, once I know where everything's in place and it's looking good, I can then start throwing some paint on a bit more freely and go in for it. It's quite an interesting building. Shadows moving across here. So like I said, the painting doesn't, this reference doesn't really work from the point of view of the colours, so I'm going to have to invent something, and I shall just see where it takes me. But the fact that I've only got primary colours on my palette with a bit of burnt sienna there gives me limited options, which will keep it looking less well, less options, so more unified, I think. So purple and orange is perhaps the theme for this. And I've certainly this year thought about edges more, you know, hard and soft edges, and tried to get that across, that message. But, I think that's what will set our work apart from others, if we've got a good understanding of edges. For instance, sharp edge there, which I didn't achieve. Come back and sort that out. and just keep things simple. You know, that's a good lesson to learn, that you know, there's some complicated shapes in here, but just simplify it as much as you can. Why complicate it? It's complicated as enough as it is. Lighter areas there. Play of warm and cool colours. Some nice cool blue there on the side of that tray. It actually goes warmer up there. I think I might end up going a bit, you know, more colourful on this one. Why not? Excuse me. So, continue with just blocking in. And I'm probably being a bit too tidy at the moment, but I want it to be a loose painting. But it needs to be fairly controlled to start with, really. It's easy to start putting things in the wrong place. For instance, that archway, it has actually moved, but it's okay. And then we've got some cooler tones on that side. Not quite sure what to do with the sky. But, so that's certainly not a strength I have, is making up my own colour designs, which is why I do quite heavily rely on a good reference material. But you know, that will come in time. I'm sure for these masters, it didn't happen overnight. And I suppose I know a lot of you who follow me are beginners, so that's the thing to remember. You know, it doesn't happen overnight. We're trying to be as good as these masters we follow from the past, but just remember, you know, they've been doing it for 50-60 years. The paintings we're looking at of theirs. Yeah, no idea what that is. It's just a dark shape off in the distance there. Could perhaps make it look more like a building by adding a chimney pot or something. So, tempted to do something with the sky. So, what to do? I think we need to keep the sky light. So in the photo, the sky's just been overexposed. But I just put some white on top of there. It will mix with that yellow ochre that's on there already. I could put a little bit more yellow ochre out. Talking of edges, maybe a softer edge off in the background that might work well. Hard edge maybe if we want to draw the eye a little bit onto that archway. So we can soften that maybe. Adds a bit more atmosphere. Let's try a little bit of blue up in the sky. So keep it light in value. It's not a bright blue. It's again, that blue's going to mix with the yellow ochre that's on there. And over the years, I know I've learned not to judge the painting at this stage. It's not finished. Which is why when you're outdoors painting, it's nothing worse when someone comes up to have a look when you're at the awkward stage where it looks like a right mess. And then they go, oh well, good luck. But, you know, hopefully they'll come back in a half an hour and see it when it's looking good. So this is fairly thin here in the sky because I'm going to be painting some branches across it at some point. But that's got a fairly nice glow. And until we get the contrast coming across there. Just be careful when you add too much white, you take away a lot of the saturation and it can end up looking quite cold, and put some pigment back in there. Lost that warm feeling. So that's the sky in. Just for fun, let's throw a branch across. I need to rig it. Sometimes I like to just get some detail in somewhere because it perhaps just reassures me that I'm heading in the right direction, that it will be okay. See, those branches actually do go a little bit lighter up in the sky, but I'll sort that out. Just get a few in. It's going to give me an idea what it might look like. More darks in. So the canvas is pretty much all covered now, so now it's a case of finish the painting. Be brave, put your shapes in and own it. So my shadows are a bit on the dark side. We want them fairly dark, but just adjust. That should have perhaps gone up a bit further. Getting in a bit of a mess there. Don't panic. Beauty with oil paint. So we've got light. We'll keep that light on that part there. So that should be going off that direction there, maybe. Made a right mess of that. So that's, I suppose, one of the big messages I've tried to get across to members this year, both in watercolor and oils. If your drawing's not right, you are going to be struggling. Which I'm struggling here a little bit because my drawing wasn't right. But, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't perfect, which has caused me problems. So if you are a beginner, I would highly recommend using some kind of measuring tool or tracing, because if you're struggling to put things in the right place, if the drawing is letting you down, painting is going to become very difficult. But drawing is definitely something you can learn. That you may think that you can't draw and you won't be able to learn how to draw. Couldn't be further from the truth. I couldn't draw when I first started, and I got better. And as you can see, still need improvements. There's an arrow there, it's not necessary, so I'll leave it out. So I suppose I was going to try quite my own sort of colour schemes, but I suppose I am chasing this reference here, which I didn't necessarily like the colour scheme, but I shall just keep going, see where it takes me, and then maybe make any adjustments necessary. There that I'm going to move. It would suit the painting quite well. Back to put a few darks in. There's a bollard or something there, but again it just serves well to put something in. Another dark there. They're actually bins. Excuse me. These cars a little bit. So I suppose I was envisioning something colourful. With sense of light. Texture on that building. Window, which again I'm moving. But, putting a light shape next to that darker shape would be a good move. You know, the painting may rely heavily on these cars. You know, if I get these looking quite good from the point of view of the windscreens and the light on them. And it's funny that on a photo, these windscreens, don't, the cars, you'd think would be quite nice not to have the cars in the reference there, but for a painting, I think they add a little bit of interest. That needs to come over this way more. Got that in the wrong place. I didn't really have an idea how it was going to look really. I just went for it, and I suppose it's not finished yet, so I still don't know what it's actually going to be like when it's finished. I think sometimes if you can have a vision in your mind's eye of what the painting's going to look like. That will help you a great deal. I've always struggled with that. I think I find it probably slightly easier in watercolor to do that. Dark there. Always handy to have a few paint brushes on the go. I've used loads already. So the thing is to have your plan, stick with it, keep going until you've completely messed it up, and then you know, well, okay, that didn't work. On to the next one, but don't worry about it if it didn't work. It's just the painting at the end of the day. So I have my fair share of failed paintings, and I'm certainly going to have a few more. Had a few this week in watercolor that didn't work, and I had to keep painting. Let's do it again. I suppose if you had success on every painting, it probably wouldn't be fun. Just looking at shapes. Is there any way to paint a car at a funny angle with glass that's on a curve? So we've got the surrounding shapes being reflected onto it. How are you supposed to do that? Just paint exactly what you say. And even just simplifying it. It's good to have a few brushes with dark paint on, a few brushes with light paint and so on. Ultimately, by the time I finish painting, everything's got white paint in it. The cars are starting to take shape. So just a few careful little highlights. So that wing mirror goes across there. Let's just melt that into the shadow there. Just make a bit of room. Just start somewhere else and come back to that car. Work on this tree a little bit. So hopefully you're enjoying this video. Please do hit that like and subscribe. Don't forget the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. And don't forget to check out those links in the description if you want to paint along with me, perhaps on a live stream, and have access to a huge library of full demonstrations like this. Darker at the base. Thin the branches that come off it, so I think I probably need to use a rigger. So where the light is coming through the trees, it's making the branches appear quite sort of red and fairly light in value. Use either a bit of Gamsol or a bit more linseed oil to make it flow a little bit better. A bit laborious doing these branches. In a few bit of structural detail, especially eaves under that building. Again, dark positioned under there will make that stand out better. Trees hiding some of that. Darks in, and I can sort out the shape of that. That's supposed to be a car in there or something. Dark positioned there. We'll just make that roof stand out a bit more than what it is, just a square. Just to give the illusion that there's buildings off in the distance. Hubcap of that car. Maybe we can have another car up there. There's signposts. So just some light, purpley grey. A little flick of light there. Again, there's rooftops with guttering and all sorts, just capturing little flicks of light. But don't go mad with it like I just did there. I could put a texture on that tree. That's definitely a lot more colourful than I perhaps intended. This scene. Let's tone it down a little bit, maybe. So, fence there. This is just someone's garden here. Those bricks on the edge there work quite well to just break that up. Do that very accurately, but probably enough. So my shadows aren't quite right. Let's mix all that together. What do we get? Let's keep things purpley. More blue, maybe there. Seems like almost a red. Again, that's probably just the effects of the camera. The problem with these hard edges, I have to just try and soften it a little bit. Right, let's soften this a little bit. This is just a clean brush. well. Connection through the painting. So let's get some more darks in just to make sure we've got a bit of structure to it. After all, is a building or buildings. But I'm keen to make sure we've got connection throughout the scene. So I want it to read well as a painting. It's a bit bright at the moment, so I shall aim to grey things off a little bit. And quite often it's a case of not making it too neat and tidy. Again, back to what can we see? I can just see some shapes reflected in that glass there. Opportunity for some cool against the warmth in there. Building needs to be knocked back a little bit. There. So I have to paint those details on those bricks again. Why sometimes it's a good idea not to spend too much time and effort on things like that, because you might paint over it and then have to redo it. I'm just going to try and get rid of the brightness of the colours, make it look more natural. want to get a decent amount of paint on here as well. I suppose my plan was to try and get a sort of evening sunlit feel to it. And I knew it's not one of my strengths, necessarily just making up colours. Accepting that it might not be a masterpiece, but it's a good exercise and it might come out okay. What I've recently been doing in my sketchbook is doing things that are a little bit more detailed, and I've quite enjoyed that. So in the reference, there's a car over this post here. I've moved this right over to these got these number 2 filberts, quite good for doing these detailed bits. That's Rosemary & Co. A size 1 these actually. I ended up with them both with white paint on, so I've just cleaned that off. It's looking okay. And that's what happens, you know, that you start having doubts. You think, oh, it's a disaster. And then you get some things in and all of a sudden it just takes shape. And you think, oh, actually, this could be a winner. And it might just be a little flick of the brush here, there, and everywhere. So I need to put something in here, which is a shop. Which opportunity to put dark against light, make that car really stand out there. Again, no idea what that is, it's just a dark shape. Back to the other brush, which has got the light colour on it. Side of a building. Change of play, warm and cool. But, in fairness, whatever's underneath or between that arch or through the arch, should we say, you know, is it a major part of the painting? Does it just need to have something there? And actually, I've just seen there's actually one of those lovely French lanterns in there, so that will serve well. I think it'd be better to push that dark up. So, talking of lanterns, let's get these bits of detail in. that was my brush for the light, and I've mixed the dark. Never mind. Lantern in there. Just wash that brush off to get some clean brush. I want light that's falling across. Not too much white. Put a bit of colour in that. Nice load that brush. Let's have these lanterns on. Obviously, if we do that, that will probably have an effect of the surrounding area, maybe. We'll try that, see what happens. Start being adventurous like that. Gotta be careful. I suppose there's nothing wrong with leaving a bit to the imagination, is there? It doesn't quite make sense if we put light here, there, and wherever. So I've got the shadow coming off the tree there. Bush. Yeah. So when you're having to make things up, it's much trickier, and apologies, it's not quite so probably fast paced, and I've probably sounded a bit unsure of what I'm doing at times because I have been unsure, but I'm working my way through it, and it's starting to come. At some point, I'd like to try and get a figure in or two. We've got leaves on the ground here, some flowers. whoever's house this is, need to do it justice. So again, a nice position, light against dark on that tree and on that shadow. We could break that up with another window there, couldn't we? Or do we need another window there? It's quite a nice patch. We'll have a branch coming off that tree there. Just a little bit blue, that tree. Let's grey it off. So if I mix my primary colours together, more of a grey. But some of that bright blue will still come through. A gnarly tree. So starting to look for things to do. I think I need to finish that tree. And then I'm going to put a figure in. I want to do something with this car as well. The dark on that wing mirror, that's what I need. And as you know, you probably put these darks in several times throughout the painting and then lose them and have to do it again. Right, fiddling. Let's have a go with my that brush. Some dark purpley paint. Put the lid back on this Gamsol, even though it doesn't smell of anything really. Probably not good for you. So let's see. That gives us a nice fine branch. Very natural looking. I know I've mentioned this brush lots of times. This is called a Pro Art 9A medium. It's designed for doing pinstripes on lorries, trucks and things, I think, probably. The sort of shape of it's called, I've also called a sword brush. Got a few different brands, but they all do much the same. But I first used this in watercolor. And I thought I'd try it in oil painting, and it works okay. So we now need leaves. You can use also a fan brush, works quite well as well. We'll just use little shapes. Just keep twisting the brush about. So I think this is probably spring, because I think they're daffodils on the, you can see there. This tree was just coming into blossom. So it doesn't need much more really, but I'll try a figure. So let's get the height of the person, and where would be a good place? Possibly coming around the corner there. Don't want to lose a nice part of the painting. Could have a couple of figures in there. Let's just go for a couple of figures coming out the corner there. That gives us the head height. And we'd have them walking towards us or going into the scene. Probably give them a hair or a hat, one of the two. Sometimes you try and paint hair, it turns into a hat. He's walking away from us now. That's going to give us a nice shadow there. Let's make the figure. I'll see they're just lost in there, can't really see them. a little highlight. Again, this is very much how I would paint the figures in watercolor. So just lay a little highlight there on top of his head. I think it's quite nice to have him coming towards us. Pierre, we'll say. Give him a bag as it's a town, he's shopping. So zoom in a bit. And Francois and Natalie. Could find it, some red. Let's give him a red top. And I'm thinking another figure walking the other way, but silhouetted. So this one's walking away from us. So we use the head height there. We can put light against dark. So I think adding some figures just adds a little bit of a life to the scene. Okay, a bit of rim lighting. He looks like he perhaps wants to come towards us as well. Why not? Sometimes you just got to go with whatever's happening. So the only way, if we wanted those figures to stand out, pin brushes everywhere, here is I could put a lighter shape behind them. So for instance, I could put a window there, and then those figures will stand out more. Tempting, as although it's not there, I've got some red straight from the tube. What if we put a red tail light there. It's a bit pinky, that red. Let's see if I can find a better red. Got some scarlet red there, Michael Harding. It's a bit nicer. I've got a clean brush. Some red flowers. Why not? Bit of red about the place. And I haven't got much in the way of colour. Let's get that more. Slightly bigger patches of leaves, I think. Get a bit more volume there. And I have to remember I'm at that dangerous stage where it's easy to overwork it. Signpost there, that breaks that wall up a little bit. And there are some more dappled sun shadows in there. Might be a bit over the top, but and what you need to remember at this stage, you could stop anywhere because what you're adding here isn't going to make much odds, really, I don't think. And in actual fact, can have a negative effect. There we go. We'll call that done. Right. Scratch in there. At this stage, we can take away the reference image because we're no longer needing that. Let's have a little close up. So I think the figures made a big difference. So we've got Henri, Pierre, Francois, and Natalie, I think we said. See some Peugeots or Renaults. That pillar came out quite well with the cool and the warm there. It gives it form. And obviously once it's viewed from a distance, it's got a nice light and movement there to it. So there we go, up close, all those little bits of detail. What are they? They're just little darks against light, interesting marks with the brush, and the viewer's eye will fill in the gaps. The cars off in the distance, a tree, a building, a little highlight on some guttering and things like that. Same with the side of the car, that create a shiny surface on metal. It could sort of drive you crazy trying to get it too accurate. So just look at the shapes, tonal values, and put them in, and just go with what you've got. And when you look at it from a distance, it all just comes together. And a lot of colour harmony here, that those oranges are working well with that purple, which has an overall warm feel to it. So pleased how it came out. And so I think it has helped me doing what we've been doing this year to progress. That if I look back at a similar scene I've done in La Chatte, it's I think this is an improvement. So I'm happy in the direction I'm going. So we'll keep doing it and see where we are this time next year. So good luck. If it's time to give it a go, see you on the next video. There you go. Good luck with your painting. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, you'll love this one.